Mr. Speaker, members, I rise today to ask you to join me in repudiating the violence that occurred last week in our nation's capital. The desecration of democracy, the destruction of property, and sadly, the loss of life are almost too much to comprehend. Why? All because of the big lie. The president's nonstop, unsubstantiated, and false claims that the election was rigged and fraudulently stolen from him were the sparks that lit the fire that has now engulfed our nation. We have colleagues that took to social media to deflect blame, but the images of Confederate flags, MAGA hats, and the ubiquitous QAnon symbol leaves no doubt whose mob it was. Each day, more and more video footage reveals a very dark picture. From the murderous chants, constructing a gallows complete with noose, to zip ties, pipe bombs, and guns, and worse, watching a police officer being beaten with an American flagpole. A police officer beaten with an American flagpole. It's clear that the mob had been incited by the big lie. While it's easy to demonize those caught up in the frenzy of hate and anger, this American carnage lays at the feet of only one person. Many of us in this chamber understand what it's like to come from a marginalized community. Believe me, being poor and white from the desert carries many of the same burdens as growing up poor and black or brown from the city. I understand those who feel that they've been left behind. I have family and friends who think that no one is listening to them, and their fear is that they are losing the country that they love. Let me be clear. Those who committed this insurrection must be punished to the fullest extent of the law. But we must show understanding for those radicalized by social media posts by narcissistic politicians and shock jock grifters who have gotten rich off of exploiting people's emotions and fears. We must show them love and ask them to come home to an America that hears their voices. Yes, I'm saying that we need reconciliation and healing. But that comes after accountability and repentance. We can begin that process today by standing united in the defense of freedom and democracy and renouncing the big lie. America is exceptional, I believe that. Our love of liberty is what sets us apart from the rest of the world. But liberty cannot endure without responsibility. Many of us would prefer that the president would take personal responsibility and resign on his own volition. Since he failed to do so, the people and their representatives must hold him responsible with the tools that the Constitution provides. The president invited the insurrectionists, he incited them, and for too long, he did nothing to stop them. Members, if that is not an impeachable offense, then I just don't know what is. The oath that each of us took weeks ago to support and defend the Constitution requires us to take action. So today, let us raise our voice and act in solidarity as one nation to hold the president to account. Mr. Speaker, members, I respectfully request an aye vote, and I'd like the clerk to open the roll for co-authors.
Thank you, Mr. Mays. Seeing no discussion or debate, Mr. Gibson, in the rear of the chamber, you are recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker and members. I rise in support for H.R. 7 as a principal code. I'm asking for the immediate removal of President Donald Trump by resignation or enacting the 25th Amendment or impeachment or conviction. Members, what we all saw last Wednesday was a direct assault on the democracy of the United States of America. I'm absolutely believing that it's our voice from California, in support of H.R. 7, can certainly send a loud message, a strong message, that what transpired on Wednesday, where 6 people's lives were lost, including a Capitol Police officer, individual who swore to protect was a victim of what transpired that emulated from the highest office of this land. It was green-lighted for people to come together and attack our United States Capitol. We can disagree. We can even have party lines, Democrats, Republicans. But what transpired, I sat in horror that our nation capital was under attack because the chief commanding officer gave the green light for vigilantes to attack our democracy, to put people's lives in jeopardy. We cannot stand by and watch this happen. We believe strongly in H.R. 7, and we thank the author for bringing this resolution before this body. California cannot be silent. Dr. Martin Luther King says that silence is a form of betrayal. We have the power to collectively blend our voices together on this floor and send a loud message that we will not stand for not only attack against our democracy, but this country. It has left this country vulnerable for other attacks outside of the United States of America. And we strongly believe that this is the best resolution to send the strongest message that this president needs to resign. This president needs, or the vice president needs to invoke the 25th Amendment and do the right thing. It is time for this country to heal, and this country needs to heal now. So I'm asking that you support H.R. 7 with your aye vote. Thank you, members.
Thank you, Ms. Gibson. Mr. Mathis, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I, like my colleague who's introducing this resolution, grew up white and poor as well, and has seen the face of poverty, has lived the face of poverty, and understands what it's like to grow up in one of the areas that's forgotten by the politicians that represent us. As the first millennial combat veteran with a Purple Heart elected to state office in this country, I find what happened at our national capital completely appalling. I tweeted about it, saying that violence is not protest. And I agree with many of the things the author has said. What I do not agree with is the fact that the 25th Amendment timeline simply is not there, regardless of how many of us wish it was. We have a lame duck president. We have people dying of COVID. We have areas in our state where families still can't put food on their table. We have people in my district that still live in third world conditions and don't have running water. But instead, the first thing we do on the floor in California is throw a political punch at a lame duck. I think that's lame. I think the first thing we should be doing is helping families with COVID, looking to get our kids back to school, getting this vaccine out, because we have millions of doses still sitting in boxes. We have frontline workers that need the vaccine. But no, we're going to spend millions of taxpayer dollars, of your dollars as citizens, to go punch a lame duck. This is lame. You're all better than this. I believe in putting people over politics, and this is politics over people. Ask for a no vote.
Mr. Cooley, you are recognized in the rear of the chamber.
Colleagues, I rise in support of this measure. I think what we saw last week was appalling. I do, however, believe this is a very appropriate time for a question like this to come before the members of this body. It's a time to reflect upon the nature of the office we sit in. Yes, the resolution is a mirror that lets us look at recent circumstances last week, conduct leading up to it. But I actually feel that this resolution is a mirror into our own hearts. What is the nature of the office that we stand in? And since this is the first day of 2021 as we start the legislature, I actually stand up here. We don't have our kids in school. My grandkids are not in school. Makes me sad. But I remember the first day of school, what it's like to be in the first day of school or my first day on a new job, how I look forward to the future and the prospects that it offers. This is the first day of school for us, to come back into 2021 after the tumult of last year and set our sights high. I do agree with my colleague that we have a broad agenda that needs to be addressed to the benefit of every Californian, all 58 counties. I agree with that. But a little over a month ago, we stood in the Golden One Center. We lifted our arms. What did we say? Think about those words. You made an oath. We all made an oath. I do solemnly swear, this is not done lightheartedly, that I will support and defend. What? What is it we are taking an oath to support and defend? But the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the state of California. That I will bear true faith and allegiance. This means there is a constancy to the faith and allegiance. It's not like when I was a little kid and I would play tag and I'd do King's X and run off. I will be consistent. True faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States, Constitution of the state of California. That I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion. That I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I'm about to enter. That was our oath. We all took that, and with that, we took ourselves out of regular human life into a position of trust and service and dedication to something beyond ourselves. This is the American way, it is the democratic way. Ages ago, in the medieval times, we had an oath that was common, the oath of fealty. You were just going to be loyal to whoever was your boss no matter what. That's what your oath was. That is not the American way. That is not what we can build our future on, oaths of fealty. But indeed, it's on the oath to support the Constitution, which I believe is implicated in this resolution for us when we hold that mirror up to us. And I want to conclude by saying the stakes are very high. It really goes to, on the first day of school, what type of member are we going to be for the rest of the school year, figuratively speaking. In 1936, George Orwell wrote an essay that grew out of his life in India, where one morning, people in his village came to him saying something distressing had happened, and he needed to act instantly upon it. Well, it was an animal had trampled somebody and killed it. Because it was the spring, and he sort of thought, well, it's the spring, animals get restive, it's the time of procreation. Everyone knows you just stay clear of them at this time. He reasons it out that I'm probably going to track this animal down and it's going to be fine. And I can just go away and hang up my hat and hang up my gun.
30 seconds, Mr. Cooley.
As he walks, a great throng of people surrounds him. He finds the animal, all is peaceful, but there is that crowd. And he concludes that when you're the sahib, you have to act like the sahib. You have to respond to the crowd. And the point of this story, actually, the essay is shooting an elephant. Against his better judgment, he shot an elephant which was vital to that community, and then had to sit by while it had a lingering death. I actually feel that this idea that we as public officials need not to shoot the elephant when our rational mind says it's not the right thing to do, that we need to take a different course and not just follow the clamoring crowd, but that we need to go back to our Constitution and that pledge by which we separated us from all other mankind is the issue for this day. So I urge an aye vote to live out our oath and affirm that we live in the 21st century, not the 1400s.
Thank you, Mr. Cooley. Mr. Garcia, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm actually motivated by the words of our last speaker here to take a look at this resolution as a reflection of who we are. This isn't really our first action when it comes to the business that we have before us and Washington, D.C., and the politics and the policies that have come out of there. This is a continuation of our position to really make it a point to say that we do not stand for the politics and the policies that have been hurting people in this country throughout the last 4 years. And I think this pandemic clearly is a perfect example of that. The economy that we'll have to focus on clearly is a reflection of that. And so I also hope that the takeaway here isn't that we are making a comparison between poor white people and poor people of color, because that's not, I believe, something that we should entertain or debate, because we can, and there is a big difference when it comes to that. But I wanted just to say that I appreciate the author, who I share the Coachella Valley geography in representation, for bringing this resolution forward. He has demonstrated a lot of courage during his time in the legislature, and this is just one more indication of his moral compass and how he feels about the public service that he's been elected to do. So thank you for bringing this resolution forward. I stand with you and everyone else in support of H.R. 7 and ask that everyone support this as well.
Thank you, Ms. Garcia. Seeing no additional discussion or debate on the resolution, Mr. Mays, you may close if you wish.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. Thank you for the good debate, the good discussion on this. I, like all of us watching last week, was horrified at what happened on the steps of our nation's capital, with people breaking in to the nation's capital and people losing their life. We've all spoken of that. I think the real question is that a beginning of something, or the end of something, or is it the beginning of something? As a democratic body here in the state of California that represents 40 million people, it is our responsibility to go on record, to go on notice on which side where we stand. Do we stand for the U.S. Constitution, or do we stand for something else? Thank you so much again for that respectful debate. Respectfully request an aye vote.
Mr. Mays has asked that the first roll be open for co-authors on the resolution. Clerk will open the roll. Members, this is for co-authors on H.R. 7. This is for co-authors. This is for co-authors on the resolution. This is for co-authors. The clerk will close the roll. There are 49 co-authors added. Without objection, Mr. Gibson is going to be added as a principal co-author. Members, if you'd like to be added as a principal co-author, please notify the desk. And with that, we are going to take a roll call vote on this House resolution. Clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote or desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll. Ayes 51, no 6. House resolution is adopted.